In January 1995 in Pittsburgh, a 45-year-old man named MacArthur Wheeler decided to rob two banks. Nothing too unusual so far, except for his brilliant plan. Instead of wearing a mask, he rubbed lemon juice all over his face. He believed it would make him invisible to security cameras, just like invisible ink. When Wheeler was arrested, he shouted in disbelief, "But I wore the lemon juice!" Absurd, right? And yet, we all do something similar, just in a far more subtle way, every single day. We convince ourselves, or we're convinced by others, often since childhood, and then spend the rest of our lives making wrong decisions based on that belief. This ridiculous episode not only landed Wheeler in jail, but it also inspired one of the most fascinating discoveries in modern psychology: the Dunning-Kruger Effect. In this video, we'll uncover how this mental illusion is already influencing your decisions without you even realizing it, pushing you to make mistakes in every area of your life. And most importantly, we'll see how it works and how to avoid it. Let's begin. Two psychologists, David Dunning and Justin Kruger, proved that people with lower competence in a given field tend to overestimate their own skills, while true experts tend to underestimate theirs. It's as if the mind tricks us. The less we know, the more we think we know. And the more we learn about something, the more aware we become of what we don't know. You might think, so what? But there's a hidden danger that most people overlook. If we think we know more than we actually do, we risk making poor decisions while believing we're in full control. For example, a beginner investor who believes they've figured out the market after watching a few YouTube videos. Someone who feels like a health expert after reading a couple of online articles. Or someone who convinced they can debate any political or scientific topic without any real data. These people are victims of Dunning-Kruger, but they're not the only ones. Because there's also the other side of the coin. Those with real experience, study, and knowledge often live with constant doubt. What if I'm wrong? What if I've missed something? So the real question becomes, how can we tell if we're overestimating or underestimating ourselves? And here comes the answer: awareness. Simply knowing that the Dunning-Kruger effect exists already puts you one step ahead. Understanding that your perception of your abilities can be distorted is the first crucial step. But awareness alone isn't enough, because ironically, the people who think they're immune to this illusion are usually the ones most affected by it. Dunning and Kruger ran experiments. They asked groups of people to rate their skills in logic, grammar, and humor. Then they compared those self-assessments with their actual test results. The outcome was clear. Those who scored poorly rated themselves far above average, while those who scored well slightly underestimated their performance. It's as if the less competent lack the tools to recognize their own incompetence, and the truly skilled think, if I can do it, it must be easy for everyone else. You might think this doesn't apply to you, but the truth is, it affects all of us. Imagine this. You start getting into something new: finance, cooking, sports, or learning an instrument. At first, you pick up a few basics. Everything seems clear, and you start feeling confident. Then, as you dive deeper, you realize how vast, complex, and nuanced the field really is. Your confidence collapses. Only after years of study and practice, you regain confidence. But this time, it's a humble, grounded confidence. This journey is often called the mountain stupid curve, followed by the valley of despair, and eventually a slow climb toward true competence. So the question is, how do we get stuck on Mount Stupid? The key is continuous learning. If you enjoy topics like this and want to grow in every area of your life, from personal development to money, health, and productivity, subscribe to the channel, leave a like, and turn on notifications. Because here you'll find proven strategies used by some of the most successful people in the world to help you become the best version of yourself. That said, never settle for the first explanation you find. Don't think a single book, video, or experience makes you an expert. Seek external feedback and surround yourself with people who know more than you. But here's the challenge. Feedback hurts the ego. When someone tells us we're not as good as we think, our first instinct is to defend ourselves. They don't get it. I know what I'm doing. But what if they're right? Accepting criticism, doubts, and limits is painful, but it's also the only way to escape this illusion. Every time someone asks a question you can't answer, that's not failure. That's a compass pointing you toward growth. As the saying goes, sometimes you win, and sometimes you learn. And here's the fascinating part. Those who can admit they don't know are often far more credible than those who pretend to know everything. Just imagine how many arguments could change if more people had the courage to say, I don't know enough, can you explain it better? Or, I might be wrong, let me check. It sounds like weakness, but it's actually a sign of strength. So if the Dunning-Kruger effect affects all of us, how can we protect our most important decisions? The ones about career, money, and health? Because the risk is huge. A young professional who overestimates their skills can waste years of their career. Someone who underestimates themselves can stay stuck, paralyzed by self-doubt. An investor who thinks they're smarter than the bank can lose a fortune. Someone who believes they know more than a doctor because they read it online can make disastrous choices. The solution: build an external control system. Mentors, real data, constructive comparison with competent peers. Never trust only your feeling of confidence, because confidence isn't always competence, and doubt isn't always weakness. And here's the key realization. The Dunning-Kruger effect is a trap of the human mind. No matter how smart, disciplined, or educated you are, if you're unwilling to question yourself, you'll fall into it eventually. But here's the good news. You can use it to your advantage. If you recognize this illusion, you can turn it into fuel. Instead of getting angry at criticism, use it as a signal to grow. Instead of being frustrated by doubt, see doubt as the engine of real learning. And most of all, turn curiosity into a daily habit. Whenever you think, I already know enough, ask yourself, what if there's still something I'm missing? So here's a question for you. Would you rather be overconfident and make mistakes, or full of doubt, but wiser and more cautious? Write it in the comments. I'm genuinely curious to know what you think. You might discover that others see it exactly like you, or completely differently. And remember, the Dunning-Kruger effect isn't a flaw. It's an invitation to stay a lifelong learner. So keep training your curiosity. Subscribe, leave a like, and don't miss the next video.